in the streaming link,
Yeah.
and it looks like we are live.
Great. Good to see everybody. So I think, what I posted on for the executive committee was probably covered on Monday of last week, but I was hoping to catch up with these items and these like hold elections for CPC officers, Rodney, and need to select president-elect. So I mean, it's been established that Joe is going to be president-elect, but is it right that it hasn't been officially confirmed or something, or?
Well, that's actually a really good question, because we didn't technically vote to accept Joe as the president. We should have done that. Joe wasn't there. Maybe that was part of it, but Mary did agree to become the president for the year starting in 2022.
Okay, I got it.
So Mary Attaway.
And she'll still be in her term, so we don't have to worry about that.
Yes. What I'll do is I'll just in the agenda, or one of us in the agenda, we'll just put to vote for the officers, which will be Joe Perloff as president, Mary Attaway as president-elect, Pam as treasurer, and I'm the permanent secretary. So that should be a really quick motion. We can just knock it out.
Okay, cool. So if nothing else needs to be said about that, Rodney, do you have like the 2019 annual report I can just review and see what that looks like?
A 2019
annual report. Maybe Dina would have that. I can ask her.
I'm sorry, your audio's glitchy. I just didn't hear you.
Okay. So moving on to the next topic in the annual report.
Yes.
Do you have a 2019 copy somewhere, or?
I do, and I will also put together all the motions that were passed.
Awesome.
And send those to you.
Cool, thanks.
And then I assume I'll need to provide financials for this year.
Yes, please.
Rodney, do you know what the due date is on getting that done?
We need to have that ready in February, so it should be ready early February.
Okay, that gives me time.
Basically, the Tree Council will vote to accept the annual report. So it would actually be good to be able to present that report to the Tree Council in January. And then they can read it and accept it in February.
Okay, I should be able to do that, at least the financial part of it. Can you send a copy of last year's to me just so I know the format?
Yes.
Thanks.
And the formatting, when I get Adobe document from you, Sean, and then I convert it to Word, I spend an hour just reformatting it. It's really glitchy. If it's possible,
everything I send you, you mean?
Every time, yeah.
Oh no. Okay.
So if it's possible to send that in Word format, that would really help me out.
Sorry about that.
It's easy to go from Word to Adobe, but really glitchy to go from Adobe to Word.
Yeah, it's really hard.
Okay.
And what was decided on for the Christmas party? Like no go? Is that right?
Nothing was decided. It wasn't discussed.
Yeah.
So that's, I mean, I guess this is the last time there's a chance for it to be, the executive committee could make a decision if it wanted to or needed to. Or it might be just more simple to say, you know, because of COVID, that, you know, they're not even recommending that families get together, so maybe it's not a good idea.
I think we should call it. Yeah. I hate
The only other option would be to do it by Zoom, but that's always kind of awkward.
Christmas party.
Right.
We could have somebody playing music, and you could all have your beverage of choice. But
Yeah.
one of my groups wants to do that too, and I'm trying to think of how to do it because they're scattered all over the country.
Yeah. So let's hope for the best in 2021. And that's not, you know, like maybe we could consider something centered around Arbor Day. You know, not there. It would be the formality. Well, there really isn't a formality of the Christmas party, I guess. But but
Do you think we need to have a regular meeting in December? I mean, that would be an option if we're not doing a Christmas party.
because we still have some business to take care of, right? Not that would have been taken care of in the Christmas party, but
Because we always had the party in lieu of a regular meeting, but there's no reason we couldn't have a regular meeting if we have stuff to do.
yeah,
It could be a short one. I think everybody would like that.
I bet so.
I'll take a beer.
Yeah. Right. I mean, what are your thoughts, Rodney?
Either way, I mean, from a selfish perspective, it's a lot easier on me if we didn't. I actually am able to catch up on some work when we don't have a meeting, but we do. We're not going to be able to replace members until April. That's kind of our quickest timeline. So Green Life Expo is canceled. The only thing that's really critical is MLK Day planning. And the suggestion was that for MLK, maybe focus, it might be a really easy plan. I think probably easy enough to plan it in January. So instead of planting on MLK Day, the thought was to just sort of focus on tree maintenance, go back and spread mulch and, you know, do some pruning and some things like that on some planting sites, you know, so revisit some old planting sites and maintain some trees.
That's a nice idea. I like that, and you know, the mulching, you know, with the planting of those big bald and burlap trees, that can, you know, it's pretty up close with each other and investing those around. I think that's a great idea. You know, like you can do one or two per tree on the mulching, and even do multiple sides. Really, excellent idea.
So basically, in January, we need to elect officers and then plan MLK Day.
We have to at least get the annual report handed out.
Yep. Yeah. Thank you.
Yep.
And then start talking about Arbor Day.
And to follow back, you know, I'm fine. That's right, Rodney. You know, I guess realistically, I think everybody's probably kind of WebEx out. So maybe, you know, it might be a good they've kind of caught a break, I guess, briefly.
Do a great. Your audio's really kind of in and out.
I wonder what, I don't know what that would be. You think maybe I should try to re-log in or something?
It's better now.
It may be you just have a bad connection.
So, what were you saying, Sean?
I'm totally fine in not having a meeting, I guess. Maybe with a solid agenda set forth the meeting. We're probably WebEx out, like that Zoom meeting out. I think from my conversations with other people, I think there's definitely some heat in the ranks.
Yep. In some ways, it might, the time might be better served just really working with Joe to get a really good, solid thing to set up and get Joe going. But either way, whatever I can do to help with it. I guess if we don't have a Christmas party and we don't have a December meeting, it would be good if you sent out email to everybody to let them know that there's no Christmas party and the next meeting will be in January.
Yeah.
And let me get the date on that. Looks like January 11th, which is, when's the MLK? That's cutting it close to MLK Day, isn't it?
That's the week before MLK Day. In fact, we'll probably, since Monday is usually the day we have our committee meetings, we probably won't be able to have our committee meetings that Monday.
That's right.
So we'll have to think about if we want to do it the week after or skip it.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to have committee meetings in December? I mean, just because we don't have our regular group meeting, we could still have committee meetings.
That might be a good idea.
Okay.
What day would that be?
The third Monday?
That's the 21st.
I won't be around.
That's pretty close to Christmas.
Yes, it is. Well, we could put committee meetings where we usually have a regular meeting.
That's a good idea, actually.
Schedule committee meetings for December 14th.
Wouldn't it be the 8th?
The 8th is a Wednesday,
Tuesday.
right? Or Tuesday?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Yeah, that's right. The 14th. Sorry.
If we want to keep things moving, then maybe doing the committee meetings where we would usually have our regular, it would at least give us a chance to meet. And the committees could decide if they had things that they needed to do or not. But
Right.
Just trying to think of some way to keep things moving.
I think that's a good idea, Pam. We especially need to get Joe here.
Yeah. It's not that I really want more meetings, but
No, I understand. I think you're right.
and if the committees decide they don't have anything to do in January or in December, that's their choice.
Right.
But we should at least give them the opportunity.
Okay. We'll just plan on that. No regular tree council meeting, but will you make those announcements, Sean?
Will do. Yeah, no regular committee meeting in December, but no regular CPC meeting in December, but instead a committee meeting on the 14th of December.
between noon and 4 o'clock again?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay.
Yeah.
That'll give me a chance to get all the minutes kind of dialed in and kind of get a preliminary, well, both you and I, Sean, to get a preliminary agenda set up to kind of help Joe. And then we'll need to get Joe here for him to start picking up that agenda. Now, it sounds like the Green Life Expo is pretty much not going to happen anymore.
Ever?
Ever. Yes.
Why is that?
I don't know why. I just received an email chain to Mark Dietrich about that. They're still going
Maybe
to
they're
give
just
out.
tired of organizing it.
Well, they want to wrap it up into some other kind of event that takes place later in the year, late spring or in the summer.
Okay. Not a good time for planting trees.
No. So whatever that looks like, I have no idea, but they do want to continue the tree steward award. But the council isn't on the list for the tree steward award for this year, so Lee wasn't sure.
We haven't done it in several years.
Yeah. So I forwarded everything to Lee, and I'm going to kind of let her run with it and see how that evolves. But just
Okay.
kind of a heads up.
What day is Arbor Day, guys?
What's that?
What day is Arbor Day?
Arbor Day is going to be is that the second Friday of each month?
I can look it up.
There's the National Arbor Day and there's the Georgia Arbor Day.
That's the Georgia Arbor Day. I messed it up last year. I think it's the second Friday, which would be the 12th, or the third Friday would be the 19th. It's one of those days, so I'm not sure which.
But so we adhere to the Georgia Arbor Day.
Yes. There was some conversation at the tree council meeting about possible alternatives, just thinking about social distancing and or were there other kind of options? So the idea about poetry contests or art contests, the way they used to do in the schools, was a possibility. And also maybe just sort of some kind of Arbor Day educational presentation, online presentation. It's kind of some thoughts for backup plans if needed.
That is the third Friday in February.
The third Friday?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's March. It's in March, isn't it?
It says on the website, it said third Friday in February.
You're right.
It's always been in February.
So that's February 19th. I was wrong about that. That was me just having a short circuit in my brain.
don't have anything else unless you guys do.
Now, I should tell you, Rodney, that I went ahead and edited our profile on GuideStar. It's still not quite done. I got to fill in a couple more pieces. But the reason that I was put onto this was somebody called me and we had a partial profile with the wrong, some of the wrong information, some old information on it. And they want to donate to us. I think it's the same people that donated from their family foundation last year to do carbon offsets.
Oh, wow.
I'm suspecting that's what it is. They didn't give a name, but they wanted to make sure that our profile on GuideStar was complete. So once we get that done, we might be able to put that on our website, and I'll talk to the promotions people about that. But I did get access to that, and I'm in the process of editing it. To go beyond a bronze, you have to provide all this financial information and everything. I don't know if we want to do that. I'll look and see how complicated it is. But I think even if we get mentioned as a bronze, that means our information is up to date. And if we could get more people that are willing to donate like that, it's all to the better.
Would you mind sending me a message with the GuideStar link?
I will.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I meant to do it before the meeting and then I ran out of time.
Sure.
People are looking for ways to make sure that they're giving to legitimate groups. And this is one way to do it. To get access on there, I had to provide a copy of our EIN form that we got from IRS when we started. Fortunately, it's in the packet of stuff I have. So that got us in. Did they contact you or did they not?
They contacted me and I was looking for the EIN number and I couldn't find it. So I had them contact you.
Yep.
But the GuideStar people have not contacted me. So I don't know what's up with that.
Got it. Okay. Well, maybe that providing them with the EIN number form was enough to get me access. Because nobody's going to have that unless they're the treasurer, right? So that got me in. And so, once the profile is complete and we're at bronze, then I'll look to see if there's something we can put on the website to promote that. And the promotions meets at 1 today. Is that correct? So I'll talk to them. Okay.
Should we roll into interview work group stuff?
Yeah, we can. I have not had a chance to look at the questions you sent me yet, so I'm not sure how much I'm going to be able to contribute, but.
So can I have two people that have expressed interest in joining, the top one being Holly Campball. And can we just at least roll tentatively, like with the information that we have so far, and set up an appointment with her? Or
yeah, we could definitely do an interview.
Yeah.
And
I don't think we have to wait till the questions are updated. We can use the current questions if we need to.
And I feel like, do we necessarily have to adhere to that? I feel like, especially with Holly, I think you and I both know her, Rodney, and I think it could somewhat be formal yet, a little bit. I don't know, less regimented than.
It's an interesting question. In general, when it comes to interviewing, I try to find ways to make the process consistent between participants. So having a set of questions is one way that we do that. So, we could always ask the old questions if we just had a lot of feedback about how awkward they were.
Yeah.
Because that would be consistent with what other CTC members have been nominated through until we have the new ones ready.
Right.
Okay. So yeah, I see what you mean too, as far as, we wouldn't want to, favor, or in other words, craft an interview.
It's just the more consistency in the process, the better. That's the main thing.
Okay. Okay.
Now,
Well, I'll reach out to her and see what her schedule
I
is
think
like.
Okay. I think Public Information has put out an announcement. I think there's an application active online.
I looked at the county website for us, and there's something of a banner on the top that says we're accepting applications through December 6th.
Yep. And I don't know if anything's being advertised, but if there's going to be any advertisements, it would definitely be the time for it. So yeah, December 6th is, they always ask me for a cutoff date on those applications. And that's the date I gave them. I just kind of took it for granted that we'd have, people ready to go by then.
Yeah.
So is there a chance that we can revise that date? Given.
Yeah, the short answer is yes. It's just important to understand that Public Information is so inundated with these meetings that they're really struggling in every way. They're not able to do what the other functions are supposed to be performing. So anytime I make another request, there's some tension there. They're just completely overwhelmed.
I understand. Well, I will, once our meetings wrap up today, I'll reach out to them and see if we can set up a Zoom meeting as soon as possible.
Okay, who's the other person that is interested?
She's another gardener. I mean, she's a gardener in town. Her name is Cameron Gerard, and so Holly and Cameron. Is there somebody else out there that somebody knows of? I was going to.
So yeah, if we could find one more, we could kind of put it together.
And did you announce on Monday that Jim is out?
Yes.
Okay.
We did talk about everyone spreading the word, word of mouth kind of thing. So that could be something that you could also make a request when you send out the announcement about the Christmas party. Please, if you know of anybody at all, send them our way because we're running out of time.
Okay. And this will be just in the form of email to our members, right? Am I going to be sending out minutes for this meeting?
For this meeting today, or which meeting?
Exactly, today.
Yeah, we'll need notes for all the meetings from today for sure. And then we'll need to put together an agenda for the December committee.
Committees. Yeah. Never mind. Right. Exactly. Yeah. But I will craft an email which will, direct.
And I guess we'll be on standby to hear from you for setting up these interviews then?
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
How's it going, Phil and Edith?
Good.
So is that it for an interview work group, or do we still have more we need to discuss?
I think that's it for now. We just need to find a couple more interviewees for sure, you know.
Yeah, working on the interview list is on one of the top things on my list. I just haven't gotten there yet.
Okay.
So yeah,
Well, we'll
if you guys can take these next 10 minutes to go find some people, that'd be great.
I had a person in mind. She's a PhD level educational psychologist
Great.
that's real interested in trees. I know that, but I don't know what her time availability. But I'll reach out to her then.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay.
Thank you. So it must be time for a Trees for Tomorrow meeting.
Is it?
We're pretty much to that place on the agenda, although it's earlier than we have scheduled.
I think, when are we supposed to meet?
So the interview work group goes until 12:50, but we're ahead of schedule. And guys, just to review, we were talking. I think this was before you guys logged in, but I have two people in mind. I think Phil probably knows Holly Campbell. She's interested. She moved to Athens and
Okay.
no longer
So-
lives in Winterville, so she's interested. Edith, she works at the university and works in the School of Forestry and is involved in the urban forestry program there. And I can't officially remember what her title is, but she was involved in the Winterville, the upstart Winterville tree council, and so it'd be a great fit. I have another person in a lady named Cameron Garrard, who's a gardener here in town, and so you know, hopefuls. I know Holly at least shows an especially solid interest, thankfully. So. Outside of that, I don't have anything.
Does Holly work for the Cooperative Extension Service? That's what sticks in my head. But you said she's in Forest Resources.
Yep, she used to.
Okay.
And you're on mute, Rodney.
Thank you. She's Dr. Gordon's assistant. She's helping to facilitate the startup of the COFA program at UGA, so the Community and Urban Community Forestry and Arboriculture program.
Good. Now, is the third one would be to replace Jim Weck, or is there yet another needed for that?
We currently need
total.
Yeah, 3 total.
Okay. Well, I don't mind starting the trees for tomorrow early, but I feel like if people show up on time, we're just going to have to say everything over again if we do. And I don't know if that's very efficient of our time.
I could tell you what little bit I know, maybe just as a primer or a prep.
Okay.
We did go out there and look at the site, Jeannie and I think Jeannie was planning on being at this meeting today to talk about it. So she might be able to talk about it more directly. But basically the only site that folks really feel is viable is the median strip between Little Oak Street and Old Winterville Road for the crepe myrtles.
Have you looked at the sketch that I sent, Rodney? Okay.
Yes.
So none of not even the stuff just right along the edge of the trail on the Oconee Street side of the trail is viable at this time?
Well, people are really reluctant because they don't know what's planned for there, and the experience is that contractors are so hard on plant materials that they just don't want to take the chance of losing trees.
I see.
There's the landscape's also down by half of its workforce this year. There's a hiring freeze, so that's also a factor.
Okay. Well, we may not have much to talk about then. It may come down to just choosing what color crepe myrtles we want.
Jeannie did want to get clarification about basically maintenance responsibility on that site. And so she was going to talk with Todd. And I think she did talk with him, but I don't know what what was discussed in that.
Okay, good. Well, maybe Todd may show up or Jeannie or both, and that would be helpful if they do. Well, that is going to seriously constrain our planting plans for this year. Hopefully that will not negate the use at some point in the next year or two, continued planting at that site by us, because from what I heard at our field trip site visit, if we continue on toward Winterville, the options become a little more complicated with private ownership on both sides and the narrowness of the right of way that's going to be available.
Now they are getting ready to begin construction on the trestle on the bridge coming out of Dudley Park that connects Firefly up on Poplar Street. So I know I've seen the plans. There are trees being removed and stuff. It's a big project because they have to bring in a bunch of cranes. So depending on what that looks like after the dust settles, there might be some options. Maybe not. It's hard to say. Bridges are tricky because they have a pretty significant clearance that's required. So it might not make a difference.
Well, it might also create an undesirable planting area with the shadow or the footprint that the bridge creates as well.
Yes.
But it's something to keep in mind. We have an obligation that we have to follow through on, and if it comes down to it, we may wind up going back and interplanting or picking some spots within that area, the vicinity of the area we planted last year, perhaps, and putting in another one or two here and there.
Are crepe myrtles considered trees for the purposes of the Jordan? I'm not a forester, Rodney. Is a crepe myrtle a tree?
So the way you define, people will define trees in different ways. In general, a tree is defined as a plant that's 15 feet or taller and is single trunked, but not exclusively. So a crepe myrtle technically can either be a tree or a shrub, depending on how it's treated. Crepe myrtles naturally kind of want to be a tree, but the nurseries like to turn them into shrubs, and people seem to like them that way also.
Well, sometimes people just cut them all off and turn them into what looks like clubs.
Yes.
Well, there are also some diminutive varieties, dwarf types, I would say, or shrubby type crepe myrtles. But the ones that we planted, for instance, over at Broad Acres, those are as tree-like as they come, and will continue to become more tree-like. And I would think that would satisfy the obligation that we have, at least. In calling them trees, if we choose one of those full-size varieties.
If it's full size, it probably requires less maintenance than if you have to keep pruning them to keep them small.
Well, ideally, people just shouldn't hack on those things. What do they do anyway? What do they call
we see a lot of that.
They call it crepe murdercide or something like
Crepe murder.
Crepe murder, yeah.
I think in that location, you would want to encourage them to be tall and up and over the street and up and over the trail.
Yeah.
Well, in fact, yeah, that there's going to be a sight line that's going to be needed to maintain because of the proximity of the intersection there. So they're going to have to be bare trunked up pretty good. Otherwise, there'll be a
hazard.
Problem.
Yeah. Well, then those might meet the requirements then.
I think.
Just trying to think of a way to keep moving forward. So
I see Jeannie coming in, it looks like.
Yep.
I haven't. Hey, Jeannie. I haven't heard from Joe or Nina or Todd. I don't know who else is arriving. We've got a few more minutes. Has Mary been on, Rodney? No. Pam, is it still correct that most of the funds that we have in that account are Trees for Tomorrow?
Yes.
I can't think of the name of the grove. Carl Jordan Grove.
Carl Jordan. Yes, most of them are.
Okay.
So we have roughly 10,000 to spend.
Rodney, do we have an annual? We talked a year or two ago about trying to set a number for each year that we would try to plant until we got this done. But that's not That's not an official constraint, is it? The number per year?
There's nothing official. We've been on track for 5 or 6 trees a year.
But considering 2020, I can't imagine anybody would give us a hard time if we have to kind of put a pause on it this year.
Well, there's really no one that is overseeing us that I can tell, unless it's Carl Jordan, and he may still be in
he probably is watching.
Maybe in Idaho or Utah or somewhere now. Still, I don't know. Okay, I see it's 12:50, and so I presume we can begin now. It looks like Nina has joined us. Hey, welcome.
Hey, Nina.
Jeannie, welcome to you. It's like Sean may or may not be joining us. I just got some further information from Rodney regarding our Trees for Tomorrow planting project or possibilities at the site, at the Firefly site there near Racetrack. It sounds like we are, at least for this year, for this planting season, we're going to be constrained to only the grassed median area from the old Winterville Little Oak Street intersection back to about where the standards are in the trail to stop driving traffic. So it's about, it looks to me, I think I pasted off the other day, it's about 135 feet or so, and maybe 12 feet wide. That would be from the edge of the Firefly Trail to the edge of Little Oak Street. So, you know, there's probably some right of way that we have to yield to it. But the planting possibilities that I sent out on the other side of the Firefly Trail are just too up in the air right now as far as what might happen on that side of the trail, apparently, to go to the trouble of purchasing and putting in trees that then might be damaged in the further construction that takes place. So we're going to have to put everything on the Oconee Street side of the trail on hold for now.
Is the thought that they're going to build some more buildings there? Do we have any idea?
Well, we're not sure about where the old Winterville Road came through. That road is still there. We're not 100% sure if they're going to clean that out, if they're going to expand. It might be additional parking for the Firefly Trail at some point in time. We don't know. Nobody said anything.
Yeah, well, then we definitely want to hold off on putting anything there because could very well have to get bulldozed out eventually.
And it would be great if the whole thing was finalized before we began, because it may create a much larger opportunity for us to plant there. That might be almost a plaza-like area that we can further plant and work with once that happens. So I'm this meeting may be sort of a moot point. I'd like to hear from other people on the TFT about what your ideas are as far as what would be planted in that 135 foot by 10 foot strip. We have been talking about crepe myrtles in that area, and there may be some other possibilities. I do think we need something that has a fairly bare trunk and starts with a fairly bare trunk because of the visibility requirements that intersection is going to pose.
Yeah, I wish I remembered what Mary wrote down a bunch of options when we met out at the site, and maybe serviceberry was a possibility. I mean, that I guess it doesn't get as tall as crepe myrtle, but it definitely has that leggy trunk form.
Yeah.
I agree that visibility would be really critical for that intersection.
Yeah, I have her notes that she shared with us, and she did mention Serviceberry and some others. I think she might have been talking about another part of that location. I do see a grass strip near street crossing, full sun, 8 crepe myrtle. I'm thinking that that is the area that she was talking about there. What does anybody have a rule of thumb or a good guideline for the spacing of, say, something like crepe myrtles?
We'll definitely need to pay attention to the ordinance on distance from intersection. I think it's 30 feet. So we can't plant too close up to the end there. And then the distance, you just really want to think about the mature size of whatever species you're planting and give them enough room for the mature canopy size.
Okay, so we could probably find some literature on the full spread. It would be okay with crepe myrtles, I presume, if the crowns more or less at maturity more or less touched, but you wouldn't want them to be intertwined with one another a lot, I would think. I'm trying to think of ways that we could plant as many as we could, at least there. Any other thoughts?
Suggestion for if you like the idea of crepe myrtles, what we've done up on the roof, double rowing them, alternating planting. So the look is more, even though we were doing 15 and 20 foot spacing, we were alternating as we're going. So we've got a double row.
I'm having trouble understanding you, Jeannie. I
Can
don't
it be
know
better
if
this way?
that is better.
Okay. What we've done on the loop is we've alternated planting in a double row. So it looks, I mean, looks like there's more by alternating. So if you look at it from the side, it looks more like a 10-foot spacing, but they're actually 15 and 20 feet. And when you were just talking about with the park itself, with the Firefly Trail, you've got maybe 7 or 8 feet, but then the rest of that's right away. So it's an approach either way there.
Okay. I looked when I went back to the site. I looked. You know, there's a wooden fence, almost a railing type structure adjacent to the trail on the Oak Street side. But as you get behind the stores and further down toward where we planted last year, that's a very steep kudzu covered kind of weedy area that I don't think would be, I don't know if there's room in there or not, but it would be not a particularly desirable place to plant, I don't think.
Well, using the 15-foot spacing just as a guideline, like a rough estimate, you could fit 9 crepe myrtles in. So I mean that's
with a 30-foot setback, you think, from the intersection?
Maybe less than that. If it's 30 feet, yeah, 7.
That's what I'm thinking, 7 or 8, maybe, if we start right at the far end, right where the fence ends, and planted one there and then spaced them out. Well, I can certainly, we're going to need to bring this before the whole, I presume, for for a vote, but I can gather the information regarding the cost and the size and so forth, and go back over one more time and make sure what we can fit into that location. Jeannie, what you does that sound like something that landscaping is would be capable of doing, say 7 or 8 holes there for us this year?
With this year. Yeah.
Okay. And the location is not bad. I could easily help out with the watering and so forth.
Yeah, I think that would be a very easy location as far as, for water and so forth, especially for the summer, because you've got Little Oak, you can access from either way, so very access.
Well, in fact, you could almost access it from a vehicle on the Firefly Trail as well if you needed to, because it's not blocked right at the intersection, I don't think. But anyway, that looks like a doable thing.
So there's a couple things that need to be considered. When they were digging last year for the trees they planted, they hit solid rock in a couple places and kind of move around. They also will have to do the locates and make sure the utilities. So there could be, some unknowns up there possibly.
That's true. I don't know how we can foresee that in its entirety. We might have to change the spacing or reduce the numbers if that becomes an issue.
Or maybe would it be possible to sort of prep the area, or at least test to make sure that you can plant holes where you want to before ordering the trees? Because it would be horrible to have 7 when you can only plant 4, for example, if we don't have.
I'm sorry, Nina. Go ahead. No, I was saying go ahead and get the utility locate done first, and then we can go into augers, where you might pick out the layout to go and test those spots.
Yeah, I'm sure we could get the locating done, and we might be able to take a rod or something and just drive some in and test to see if we strike rock at the locations that we would like to put it at, and go with that. That seems like a good plan. Well, is everyone okay with proposing? Well, I'll share with you online what I find out about the cost and about the numbers, and then just proposing to the council as a whole our tentative plan for that location, to plan it out with crepe myrtles to the extent that we can find planting sites there. Hearing no opposition, I will assume that I can go forward with the council as a whole, then taking this information to them at the next meeting. And let's keep our fingers crossed that things progress quickly and that we have the rest of the site available for next year. And that may, depending on how much ultimately becomes available, if they took out one of those stores, it would really be nice. But that may give us an opportunity to finish out what we have obligation for. If not, someone mentioned earlier that the landowner or the homeowner just across the road, one of the first lots where they will begin the next phase, might be amenable to a couple of trees in the back area of their property. So we can continue to look down the line as well as the trail develops. Anything else from anyone? Thank you for being here. I appreciate your input, and I'll share with you as we go forward. Watch your email.
Thanks, Phil.
Thank you, Phil.
Thank you.
Y'all have I would say I was going to say have a good weekend, but it's going to be a while. Have a good week. How's that?
You can still have a good weekend.
Yeah.
Have a good week. Okay.
It'll be something to look forward to.
There you go.
Bye, everyone. Good to see you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
So are we ready to start the promotions group?
I'd like to wait for Mary. I think she's supposed to be here.
Okay. I need to go on, so I'll just sign off for now, but I'll
Okay,
report.
Pam. Thank you.
Jesse, I did want to tell you one thing. I got a call from somebody who wants to donate from their family foundation,
Mhm.
and told me that our listing on GuideStar, which is a nonprofit thing, was old. So I'm in the process of updating that. I
Okay.
think this might be the same people that donated last year as carbon offsets.
I've
And
never heard of GuideStar.
yeah, so I haven't quite finished the process of updating it, but I've changed the address and updated contact information. And I think once we get on there, we might be able to get something we can add to the website.
Okay. Yeah,
Like,
just let me know.
Yeah, it's just a link or something like that. But we're not quite there yet. But anyway, I thought that was a good idea. She suggested that we might want to update it because that was where they looked to get information like the EIN number.
Okay.
So anyway,
Yeah, that's a good idea. But just let me know whenever you get it updated, and I'll put a link on the website.
I will.
All right,
So
thanks,
anyway,
Pam.
hopefully we'll get the check for that soon. I think it's going to be coming to Rodney's address. I decided just for continuity, it was easier to use Rodney's address than my home address. So,
That makes sense.
all right. Well, take care and
You too.
we'll see you probably next month.
Okay, sounds good. Bye.
Bye.
Rodney, can you hear me? Can I ask you a question? I got your email about the Green Life Expo, and I'm confused because they're not having it as an expo, so they're not having tables. Okay, so the nodding is good because I'm making sure that I'm understanding this correctly. They're still giving awards, but are they giving our award? Are they giving the Tree Steward Award? I looked on their website, it's not listed as one of the awards that they're going to give. So I just didn't know what to do with that.
Yeah, so Mark copied me on that email. Mark has a whole lot more experience with these folks and with what's going on. So Mark might have more insight. I don't know.
Okay.
I was just kind of passing it along because it looks like there's changes.
Yeah, sorry. Someone just delivered M&Ms to my desk. They are looking to combine the Green Life Expo with another event. And I had forgotten about that part of the discussion, and I had missed one or two meetings with those folks. Then I mentioned the idea of the Tree Steward Award. And I'm sure I know we talked about it at the last meeting. So if that's going to be a thing for sure, we can let them know, and I'm sure they'll get it up on their website. I think they're just copying from last year as to what they had done. So.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you. So I will proceed with trying to gather some nominations for that.
And I have one. I don't know what route it was going to go, but if you were looking for businesses, I have one nomination for a business, and I could get you more info if you'd like. You're muted. You're still muted, Lee.
Sorry. Yeah, I'm going to send out an email to everyone asking for nominations, but if you have something you want to send, go ahead and send it.
So Mary's not going to be here to chair, so I do have some information I could share, or I'm happy to let somebody else kind of run the conversation, just whatever you folks want to do.
I'm fine with you doing it if you're comfortable.
Me too.
So I do have some information. So I'm just kind of looking at the agenda that was sent on for these set of meetings. It says to discuss the budget request. And Mark may have some insight into this also. I did have a chance to ask Andrew about it, and he kind of helped to clarify it a little bit because it was really confusing to me and I didn't understand it exactly. The question was sent to somebody in finance, someone pretty high up in the finance department. I think the assistant director maybe. And the reply was that the Tree Council is an ACC. It's an ACC government agency, so it is not separate. But it kind of falls under two categories. So it's actually two things at once. It's a functioning governmental organization, but it's also a nonprofit organization. And that basically the type of funding or budget request that was being talked about that the Tree Council isn't eligible for. And then he suggested that if a budget is granted, that it be administered through the Central Services Department. And so some questions went back and forth about that. When I asked Andrew, he said that as it independent agency funding is granted by ACC in some cases in the county. The Arts Commission is one of those. That, in order for that to happen, the mayor has to invite an organization to be eligible for that. So it's exclusively up to the mayor. For a budget to be granted through central services, and Andrew said that he would make that a possibility. And there are several factors that come into play along with that. He said that basically it would have to be approved by the mayor and commission. It would be administered through the forester's budget, so it would go directly through my budget. He would have an expectation that the tree council would support the forester with that budgeting. It would have to be in an independent account, and it would be subject to basically the rules or the bureaucracy of the county, which they're kind of crazy. I don't understand them at all. Whenever it comes to financing, I have to ask our executive administrative assistant for help. It changes continuously, and it's just, there's a lot to it, a whole lot to it. And it's also subject to certain types of I'll call it auditing, but it's not really auditing, but it's subject to different types of accountability. In addition to that, he explained that, we're in a retraction year. Budgets are looking to be cut, and that this would be just like any other budget item. And so it could easily be selected for a budget cut. In fact, it would be one of the first things that would be selected to be cut. So that's basically how he described that to me. And I'll just open that up for conversation or discussion amongst you guys.
How likely is it that Mayor Gertz would invite us to apply for money?
How is that?
Is that likely at all?
Well, so this basically becomes one of the mayor's privileges, right? So whatever organizations or items that he might consider to be a priority, then he may invite people to participate or be eligible for this. So yeah, I don't know if it's likely or even how that would happen. I do know I can't even begin to approach that. So it's one of those things like, is it even appropriate to ask? Like, who knows who and what's that look like? But I know I can't.
From doing a little bit of budget stuff, I don't think it would be that hard to get Mayor Gertz to ask us to submit it. I mean, that just kind of gets us in the door to give them a presentation and give them an idea of kind of what we're even going to be using the money on. And I mean, I thought we were only talking about, $5,000, $10,000. The thing which is not that much, the Cultural Affairs Commission gets well more than that. As someone who sat on the Cultural Affairs Commission, I mean, the Greenway Commission gets a ton more of that, and they just give it to, the Sustainability Office or other people. They don't even really use it for anything, oddly enough. But what they do use it for, they print their own brochures and maps and stuff like that to put out on the trail. They use it for, some data counting that the Leisure Services Department really wants. And then honestly, they give it to Andrew for, some of his interns, and Mike Wharton in the Sustainability Office for some of his interns. So, I mean, the money gets put back into other places that support those groups. It kind of just comes back to other things that help out the ACC government. And I think that's kind of how we would, the stuff I'd heard from the Tree Council is that, that money would be going back into supporting some programs within the tree council, which, you know, just supports the ACC government as well. So the one thing I was in on all those emails Rodney was talking about, I just don't exactly understand how they're not their own board or advisory commission the same way that the Greenway Commission is, or even the Cultural Affairs Commission. I mean, it's mandated by the code. So I don't know. I find that part all to be odd, but that's what Chris Caldwell in finance said. And so, I mean, I do believe him. I think that would be up to Andrew to keep that fight going. The only reason I say that is that I don't want this to be seen as, you know, money that central services otherwise, you know, coming out of any of central services budget. So if central services budget was, you know, they expected to go down $5,000 or $10,000 so that the tree council could have $5,000 or $10,000. I don't think that's correct. I think this should be above and beyond, just the same way that the Greenway is and some of the other commissions out there. So that's just my feeling on it. But I don't know why Mayor Gertz wouldn't at least invite us to apply, because all they can do is, you know, say no. All he can do is let other people say no. I mean, like the county commission. So I don't think that would be that tough. I think it really comes down to showing that the money is going to be used properly. I'm not saying people aren't using these funds properly, but people are using these funds for slightly more frivolous things at times, or sometimes just not even actually using the money, because small pools of money don't get you much. You know, the Greenway Commission isn't building trails with their budget. They're using the SPLOST program, but what they are doing is advocating through mayor and commission, promoting the Greenway system through brochures and other events, tabling events, giving out small scholarships to people and stuff like that. So it's really, in my opinion, kind of just a redistribution. And so if the tree council could use some of that positively, and then also spend some of that money to keep helping out, even if it's a matching grant or something like that, I mean, all those things seem very positive.
I'm going to pop in here for a second. As far as getting in front of Mayor Gertz with it, the best way to do that is to get in front of the Mayor Commission and do a presentation. I know one good thing coming up is Rodney's, I know y'all know that we're taking part with the iTree Echo Study. And a lot of that information could go a long way showing Mayor Gertz that the tree council, you know, just like Mark was just saying, needing those funds and those monies to educate. And that could be a lot of documentation to help move that forward. Another plan on that as well is knowing what you're wanting to do with the funds once you have those. How I popped in because we're doing budgets right now. Anything capital is 30,000 above, then it turns into operational budgets, anything below 30,000. And I have to justify everything with every amount of money is going to support the budget requests. So, I mean, I don't know if you already have a plan in motion where you want to have funds to go, but you're going to have that information either way, just to even get into a line item into the budget or to get in front of Mayor Gertz.
Mark, have you gone in front of the Mayor Commission before and asked for money for other programs? I'm just wondering if we have anybody in this committee that has made that presentation before, if they know what it's like.
Yeah, I used to chair the Cultural Affairs Commission, so we had to do it every year.
Okay.
Last year, and so that's the boards and commissions one, so that's the independent bodies that I think this would be a part of. Chris Caldwell is saying that's not the case. It needs to go through central services. And, excuse me, so the central services has their own process. All the departments have their own process, which Jeannie was just talking about. And this is a component of that. Last year I sat in on the planning department's proposal for that as well. Both were pretty easy and straightforward, quite frankly. The independent bodies meet at nighttime and you just give a presentation to a few commissioners. They're pretty appreciative and asked a few questions, wanted to make sure the money was spent properly. The department one was a little bit longer, had, you know, all the county managers, finance people, the county attorney. They asked a few more pointed questions, but I think the planning department's budget's pretty similar year to year, so there wasn't a whole lot in there to go over. I don't know exactly how central services is, but they would certainly cover for a few minutes in that discussion. So I don't know. They kind of set it up to look intimidating, but they're pretty easygoing about everything.
I'm curious, knowing that this is a bad budget year for all governments, I'm curious if I'm thinking two ways on this. One is this is not the year to ask for money because we're not going to get it. The other way of thinking is knowing that we're going to be rejected, we could still ask and they say no, and then we can ask again next year and then even the year after that. And now we have a track record of asking and a track record of them turning us. And at some point, maybe guilt will overcome and they will give us some money. So, but I just don't know enough about the intricacies of government and commissions to know which strategy would work better.
I can tell you that 2 years ago, I did a mayor and commission presentation for our median enhancement plantings that we've done because we had no money for it. I did my presentation and 8 months later, I started getting money through the Danielsville and Epps Bridge. So like you were just saying, that's why I'm sitting here shaking my head. Yes, if you don't ask, you'll never get it. So it's like this, you get the ball rolling. To say, hey, bring attention to it, and then with the tree study and just more information, it's going to start sitting in their heads like, oh yeah, we know where they're going now. Planting the seed.
Okay. Well, I'm in favor of asking, even if we think it's going to be a no, just because I feel like I'm setting up something for the future. And I mean, I'll be glad to help or do whatever I can for all this.
So I'm still trying to understand, the money has to go through central services, or is there an option to have the money directly to the council?
The response from Chris Caldwell was that it needs to go through central services.
Okay.
I feel like that was 99% settled, but I still don't really understand it, is why I guess I framed it the way I did.
Gotcha.
I haven't received complete clarification on that either. I really think that one's exclusively up to the mayor, from my understanding.
I think that going through central services would be the fastest. Setting up a separate budget item line through the forester's account. Y'all would still be responsible for it, but at the end of the day, my name's on it because it'll be coming through my division. It doesn't mean I control anything. That would still be y'all's monies. It just would be more available, easier before you get it in front of the mayor and commission to possibly get your own separate account through the mayor.
Would central service prefer? I mean, like, seems like it would be a little bit easier if it didn't. Yeah.
It doesn't make a difference, honestly. Only thing, I mean, if this all comes to fruition, the only thing I would ask is to get more information in submitting the paperwork, just so that you are heard properly and represented properly the way that you want to be.
And it seems like we should, you know, if we do want to request funds, we should run our request by Russell Edwards. Have him kind of run it up the chain, I would think.
I would think too, with Russell Edwards being part of the committee, that he could probably even help expedite that.
Right. So what's our deadline for requesting funds?
Well, part of that depends on how much you want. Right now, we're working on the capital budget. Like I said, that's 30,000 and above. We haven't even started on operations budget yet.
If you want a frame of reference here, I believe the Greenway Commission gets like 16.5, and Cultural Affairs gets 36,000, something like that. And the Greenway just got bumped up. They used to get about 10,000 until a year or so.
So what's our next step? Do we need to decide something?
I don't know if anything needs to be decided. This information would probably be useful to Mary, and then it would be a matter of who, assembles a budget and, creates, so clearly you need to be able to describe exactly what would be used, what's requested and how it would be used.
And just to that point, I mean, it's good to give some detail, but the other budgets I've seen are a little bit more on the flexible side with examples of how they plan to spend the money. I mean, it just doesn't get incredibly detailed, just from what I've seen.
Like planting or pruning?
Right. I mean, like what Mark was just saying, it doesn't have to be to the exact penny. If we're going to spend, 250 on this, it had to be to the penny. It's just a generalization, like you just said, Lee.
It would probably be good if it included a printing, some office supplies, printing, educational materials, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I've just seen it usually broken down into percentages. 20% to a planting project each year. I mean, we were talking about this in regards to ongoing maintenance for MLK. I think it's kind of where it got brought up that, an ongoing maintenance of projects, an educational component. I mean, some of the other groups use some of this money for some members to go to an event here or there, educational event. So I don't know if there's approved arborists on staff that might need ISA credits or anything like that. Things like that are always good. And then, like Rodney was saying, having some miscellaneous stuff, office supplies, printing, things of that nature. It doesn't take too much to get, some basic percentages of 5 or 6 categories like that, and ask for $5,000 or $10,000. And like Jeannie was saying before, I think another component of the iTree study showing ongoing commitment to that, and that data analysis and everything. I'm sure, if we had a little bit of extra money and they needed some number crunching or some continued, I don't exactly know, Rodney, you can speak better, ongoing upkeep of that data after it's complete, those types of things are all the types of perfect things that demonstrate a good project, demonstrate competence, and then a continued willingness to fund that and use that data for the benefit of the county, which are all kind of things they seem to support.
Yeah, definitely talking about the iTree study and even what that would look like, though. The iteration of that, I think realistically is about once every 5 years, but you could easily study for 2 years of every 5 to come up with a set of data that would be up to date and relevant. Or you could even break it down into a yearly, a certain amount every year, and that could be quantified. So 200 plots right now, the cost rate is $40,000. So you could quantify it that way as well. Another thought I had is that the bylaws of the Tree Council leaves room for a position, a hired position, to run some of the paperwork of the Tree Council. And so, a budget for a part-time position to help with the minutes and agendas and calendars and, formatting of documents and that sort of thing could be really super useful. I know I spend an enormous amount of time doing that. And if the Tree Council was able to show the need for that and someone could actually do some of that, it would it would free up a ton of my time and energy to focus in places where, you know, I could be out in the field more, you know, gathering data and looking at more trees.
And just so you all know, I imagine this would be more of an operating budget, and those are use it or lose it monies. So while it's good to plan and have an understanding, just bear in mind that, you know, any of this money that's not spent in the fiscal year will be given back. I hate the idea that, you know, you waste money at the end of a budget cycle just so you actually get it again in the future. But I've been told that over and over again to spend that money. So don't plan on just banking this or, you know, getting a few years worth and then spending $20,000 or something like that. It needs to be pretty tight and used up, you know, maybe not every last penny of it, but, you know, the majority of it.
Okay, any more thoughts about this type of a, you know, a budget request before we move on and talk about tree banks? So I just have two thoughts to throw out about the tree bank or planting pool or whatever. I'm really not sure what this is evolving into. But two things I think are critical if it's to move forward on any level. One would be to have an agreement about the purpose of such a fund. Like that really needs to be sort of worked out and understood. And then number two, to have a conversation with the attorney's office about it. I did read the materials that you sent out, Lee, with the different definitions. It's really helpful. Thank you for that. I really was looking at this sustainable spaces tree ordinance, and that seems like the gold star, right? But I'll open this up for discussion.
Well, I agree with you that we seem pretty scattered right now because we don't have an agreement about the purpose of the fund, but we don't even know, we don't even know the bigger picture of what we want this to look like. So that might be a place to start. And that really would require Mary to be in on this.
So one thing that Mary mentioned to me, and I just, one of the visions that was presented, I'll put it that way, was this idea of creating a facility or a space where trees could be grown cheaply and then planted out into the community. That has been done before with some gravel bed planting, and it can be pretty effective. And that seems like a great idea, and it would be neat to do something like that. My concern, or the thing that keeps going through my mind, is something like that scalable? Like, I honestly don't think that it's realistic for the tree council to manage, you know, a gravel bed or two. And even if they were able to do that effectively, does that scale up to what the need is across the county? Like, you know, given that somewhere between a third and half of the county is single residential family units, would that work? Another thought I had about that is, you know, the plant materials themselves are typically about 1/3 of the cost of establishing a tree. So does that really, you know, help to achieve the, you know, getting the trees successfully planned and planted in the ground and then watered, you know, for the establishment period. So those are some questions that keep going through my mind, and they're really kind of nagging on me a little bit.
Is what you were describing, Rodney, is that kind of the holding area that we used to have and don't have anymore? And if we did set up a holding area, would that
Yes.
be done by the tree commission?
So, yeah, so that's the thing. There's an interest in this, and I think the interest is coming in part through sustainability, and there's a place for it. It could be, so in the past, that was done by landscape management, and Dr. Kuehler developed the approach or the science for how to do that. The benefit to doing it is you get a pretty good root system and a better survivability of the trees. You get a little bit longer planting season because they have better survivability. And there's still logistical, a set of logistical tasks that accompany that. So someone needs to set up the barriers to hold the gravel. The gravel has to be mixed with heavy equipment, with nutrients. Irrigation system has to be set up. The trees have to be planted. They have to be harvested. They have to be transported. They have to be planted. Then they have to be watered. Plus, you have to plan where they're going to go. So by the time you go through all of that, that's a big operation, right? It was done on a small scale through landscape management. There is no current ability to do that here at landscape management. So when that was talked about, then the idea that the tree council would run something like that came up. Which, it sounds great. It sounds like a really neat idea. I just wonder about the real, how realistic that is. So the main questions are who's going to do that? Who's going to buy the fuel? Where is the equipment going to come from? Who's going to plan the plantings? Who's going to plant the trees, and then who's going to water them? And especially if you're doing this as a program to, allow for variances of ordinance issues. Like, what does the demand immediately become, and is it scalable, and is it realistic? Those are the questions that keep going through my mind. So, and that was just one idea. So I don't know what the entire thinking is, but I would really like some clarification on where this is going. I really think we need to have a good understanding of the purpose of it before going too far down the road with it. Otherwise, it could just someone can invest a lot of time and energy into it, and then it not get support. So that's kind of my concern with it.
Yeah, I don't understand how this could be something the tree council takes on. This is way more than a volunteer board can handle. If it can't be done in-house, I think whatever we make the fee, it's just based off of what the market value is of having to purchase trees or replace trees. I don't see any other way to make this actually work, and I think that's the way everyone else does it. I don't know if any of these other cities have their own tree farms or anything of that nature.
So there's currently no budget, no consistent or annual budget for tree planting. There's funds out there, but they come in different ways. So it's not an exact operation. It's kind of what's available and what labor resources are available to do what needs to be done. So it's continuously changing. If there was a at least in my mind, and I could be wrong about this. In my mind, if there's a line item for this, it was part of the operating budget, then it could potentially be done on some level, but I still don't have my doubts of whether it would be scalable to what the need is through the ordinance.
I also think that if you're just putting market rate for the cost, that it's also a deterrent for people to use this this method as opposed to simply following the rules that were already in place. I can only imagine that's why they put such a high cost on some of the ones I've seen are astronomical. I know Joseph's run into one or two of them. Maybe he has some history with that, and Joseph probably also knows the development side, so maybe the numbers work out that way. But from the ones I've seen, to me, it looked like the cost that you had to pay into these things was a deterrent to keep people from paying into them in the first place, unless the values were just way up there, at which point we're talking about commercial downtown properties or something like that that don't have tree requirements. So it's kind of an odd thing when you get to there. I know there's interest in having trees there as well, so maybe that changes with it. So maybe that does sort of help out, but I think that's also a component of what I've seen out of some of the tree bank folks.
Well, that's a really good point, Mark. For a medium-sized tree can easily be valued at $10,000 according to the Council of Tree and Landscape Appraisers. So, removing a $10,000 tree and replacing it with a $700 tree is not really a fair trade. So that's one of the issues that keeps bothering me as well. So knowing exactly why this would be needed, I think is important, and I think more conversation needs to be had about it before we start trying to find solutions. We need to know what issue or problem it is we're trying to find solutions for before we start coming up with some kind of a plan.
I mean, one of the issues I see with the code as it is now is that conserved canopy is not really conserved very often. I mean, it's almost, I'd say 75% of the time these projects are unable to conserve the trees, especially adaptive reuse projects. It's just not feasible to conserve the existing trees that are paved all around the trunks. And so in those cases, the replacement has been, Rodney, just a $700 tree. And I could see where the tree bank would help by actually penalizing people. I mean, really incentivizing people to conserve trees and make them think twice before they start taking out existing canopy or asking for administrative waivers to remove trees. So I see it as a way of incentivizing, whereas currently, as far as I see it, there's not an incentive in our code to save existing trees. And so that I mainly would be hitting existing trees. Now I think, my experience, like working in it, it gets a little crazy because, we're paying a ton of money and there aren't really any trees at all worth saving. I mean, you're working around like 4-inch sweet gums that look really bad. And yet if you don't save them, then you've got to pay a lot of money. And so, anyways, I think it can get out of hand, but I see where it would incentivize people to conserve trees. If they don't, then we would make sure that they, like Mark was saying, they are heavily, they're paying their replacement more than just for one tree. Take out one medium-sized tree and plant with 10 $700 trees, something like that. And I think there's plenty of places, I think school district, our parks, the leisure services, I know doesn't have the funds to plant trees. And there's plenty of places in public property where we need trees and there isn't the funds out there. And I think I see this as a potential opportunity, but I mean, I honestly, we need to look into it more to see exactly how it works. But I think it really is the conserved canopy is the concern.
I wonder if there could be a way to bridge the concept from conserved canopy toward what's the term here? The sustainable spaces. I wonder if there could be an opportunity, with the higher dollar values assigned to, basically, if someone gets a variance and pays into this fund, maybe there could be an opportunity to design sections of town that have silver cell systems or something like that, to actually create the spaces that are needed to be able to sustain a tree. Just kind of a thought I'm throwing out there. The planted trees are great, and there is a need for them. But once again, I'm not entirely sure how that would scale over time. But I do know silvacells are quite expensive, and basically you need about $20,000 for enough silvacell space to plant one large stature tree. And that could scale on some level, I would think.
Yeah, I think the conserved tree issue is a big one. I think we value them incorrectly because technically you get more for an individual tree as opposed to a conserved canopy. And I kind of wanted to bring that up here in the committee. I'm going to leave you guys and let you guys figure it out in the next year or two, but I just think it's odd that the forested areas, which are better for ecosystem services, are essentially valued worse than individual trees that might be providing little to nothing. Not little to nothing. I mean, parking lot trees and street trees have a whole lot of benefits, especially once they get big. But I think that valuation is backwards, and I think it should be changed, which would be another way to help people conserve and conserve the right things that might go into some of these other parts of this discussion. So that's something that struck me for a while, and I didn't know exactly when to bring it up or anything, so I'm just kind of throwing it in here. I know it doesn't exactly help out with the tree bank question.
Okay, so those were some really thoughtful and comments and observations. I appreciate that, and hopefully we can carry some of these thoughts forward, moving on from here. Any other thoughts or comments about a tree fund or tree banking system? Okay, the last item on here, I don't really know how to address. I think that's still just in the works. I think it's a matter of communications. Mary's been pretty busy with elections types of stuff, so I think it's just one of those things that a conversation that's been deferred. I do have boxes full of documents here. I have documents from the 1990s. Before it was the Community Tree Council, it was, well, let me tell you the name of it. I'll look. Urban Tree Advisory Committee from the 1990s. So I have boxes and boxes full of these old documents. Would be really great to have them recorded and preserved in some way. And there really is an opportunity, for a historian or somebody to take out these documents. You could literally write a chapter in a book or even a whole book about the history of community-based tree organizations in Athens if you wanted to. There's enough information here. Some of it's pretty interesting.
I had one other point before we're done. If you guys have just a second, I think looking at soil is going to become a more important aspect. And so I know I've been here for some of the other policy discussions, and I know it's been brought up in the past, but I think it's something really worth visiting. I really wonder about some of the spaces we're putting trees into and whether or not we're setting them up for success or not. And I think that could be a component of it. As well as just some of the spatial parameters. So just two things I was thinking before I go, but thank you all for letting me be a part of this policy group, and I appreciate all your efforts, and hopefully get to see some success and some progress out of them in the future.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you for all of your input and all your thoughtfulness and well-informed feedback. We really appreciate it. It's been great working with you.
Yeah, thank you, Mark. You've done so much for the commission and the county. We really appreciate it.
Good work, Mark. Appreciate it. Yeah, who might be lined up to be the next arborist? I know you guys have hired in-house in the past.
I have no idea. I know there's one or two folks in our office who would be interested. But I don't know. It's going to take 6 months, I'm sure, anyway. So.
Gotcha.
But until then, you get every single planner getting to do random tree management plans. So that'll be fun for you.
You set the bar high. Good work. Appreciate it.
I would like just real quick to echo what Mark said about soils. Maybe it would be more progressive to shift the focus from this concept of a tree bank toward taking a good look at how to rework the ordinance, for a preserved spaces type of a concept. Ultimately, I think that would produce a lot more healthy tree canopy. I see what Mark sees, that, people are technically following the ordinance and the law, but it isn't really especially effective for the long-term health of the trees that are being preserved or even the new trees that are being planted.
So from what I understand and just from what I've seen working with the Forestry Commission, the open spaces type soil-based ordinances, that is definitely the trend.
Okay, any last thoughts before we wrap this meeting up? All right, we'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting. The Education Committee will be meeting in about 10 minutes or so.
Thanks.
Hi, Lee. Hi, Mark.
Hey, Edith, how are you?
Good afternoon. I didn't hear from Stacy, but maybe give her just a minute and get rolling. I don't have a whole lot, so hopefully this will be short and sweet.
And Mark, this will be your last meeting with us, I guess.
This is it?
Yeah. Anyway, thank you for spearheading it.
Sure. I did it just long enough to now pass it on to someone else.
What are you going to be doing in Covington?
I will be their planning and zoning manager, so I'll be kind of the head of their planning division down there.
Cool. Do you have to move your household, or are you just going to drive down there?
Probably. So we live in Oglethorpe now. Sorry. And so we're probably going to be moving west of Athens, but not all the way down there. My wife works at UGA, so and all of our life is here in Athens. So I would rather drive a little further down there and have a life still here in Athens. And so yeah, so unfortunately, it like puts us in Oconee County, which we don't have kids, so it's kind of I don't really have that much beef with Oconee County, but just paying those prices to not have kids seems like a bad idea.
Yeah, that's why I live in Winterville.
Winterville's beautiful.
It is, and it's like the poor man's Oconee County.
Yeah, we technically we have a Winterville address, but yeah, we're just over the line in Oglethorpe.
And you have a very young, energetic mayor.
He's nice.
Yeah.
Hey, Mark, like your haircut. I just referenced you the other day when I was talking about my, afro, my hair coming back after chemo, and I actually said at the time that I looked alike with our hair. Why can I look alike? But now I'm got a haircut. Look all professional. Hey, I'm sad to hear you're leaving.
Do what?
Sad to hear you're leaving us.
Oh yeah, I'm sad to be leaving.
Yeah, we're lost for sure.
It seems like a good opportunity, but I would love opportunities here in Athens. So, part of my plan is to get some experience and responsibility, and maybe hopefully come back.
I'm sorry. Say that again. I didn't hear you.
Part of it's
he's coming back. He's saying he's coming back.
I would like to.
The planning director, correct?
What's that?
You're going in as planning director?
Technically planning manager. Yeah, I'm under the public works director.
Isn't that kind of all things to all people all of the time?
Yeah, mostly. So, yeah.
Yeah.
It should be fun. And they're interesting, they're a city as opposed to the unified government, so a little bit difference there. They're actually the eastern edge of Metro Atlanta, so a little bit of Metro Atlanta. They've got I-20 running through the middle of it, so got that going on. And then just a few other interesting things like film. They've got a lot of film stuff going on down there. So yeah, hopefully a bunch to learn. And yeah, like I said, honestly, I really would love to be back in Athens-Clarke County in the not too distant future. My wife loves her job at the university, so I mean, it's kind of an opportunity to learn and grow and hopefully be back. But with that, I do not have much for the education group here. I need to get some materials back to Stacy Smith that she let me have, and I was able to start looking through, but did not get very far. But I can tell you there's some stuff, and maybe Stacy, where those things live. They must have lived near you before, and I guess they're coming back your way. So if we need to get our hands on. They're a lot more for school kids and some curriculums or classes, or go to teaching class and stuff. But they look pretty good, and so I mean that's really about all I have. If you all want to put someone else in charge, or if you just want to jointly do it for the time being. But I don't have a whole lot else other than to say thank you to you all and chat for a few minutes and see if we needed to tie up any other loose ends.
Well, I don't know. Do we need somebody in charge? I don't know. I don't have feelings one way or another about it.
Only if we get very out of control.
Yeah, because we're all working on different things. It seems like we all have like our little niches within education, and we're all just kind of doing our separate things. So I'm not saying Mark's not needed.
Yeah, I guess we could take turns with the minutes or any administrative responsibilities. We could just, as we go figure that out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could just be the joint effort, like you're saying, and just, before they send out the agenda, just everyone email in a point that needs to be put on there. Someone just compile that. It probably won't change a whole lot. You can probably use the one from the month before and swap in a few changes or any decisions that were made and keep on rolling.
Yeah. Are there meetings in December?
What do you ask? Are we what? Meeting in December?
Yeah, are there meetings in December?
Oh, I assume we are. I've got it on my calendar.
I think Phil Hale had raised a question about that.
Oh, yeah, because it's on the 21st, and that's the week of Christmas. So,
Yeah,
I mean, I'll be around. I can meet. I don't know about everybody else's plans, but I'll be out of finals by then.
I would be able to, I think if anything comes up in the interim, we could probably just email each other.
Yeah. I haven't done much for the education. I mean, what I was doing was the professional education. And other than talking to Jeannie and that really not going anywhere, I just kind of stopped with it, because then I shifted over to working a little bit more on the policy committee stuff, because we're getting all this other stuff going. So I've really devoted my time to policy more than education. And it's hard. Like, I wanted to do the professional education, but that means going to give presentations. And right now with the pandemic, it's just not conducive to doing what it is that I want to do. So that's part of my justification for kind of putting it on the back burner.
It is hard. This is my first year, and I don't know what the committee has done in the past, or the council. I know you've done a lot of events, in-person events, which are now hold for we don't know how long, at least maybe through the spring. So I guess we could work maybe on compiling our virtual education link for our webpage.
Yeah, I think that would be a smart thing to focus on for the next
6 months goals.
Do we have a webpage? I mean, aside from the website for the larger commission, you mean like the education part of the website?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that would be a great place to put all of this stuff, because if I can't go to places to do presentations, we can at least put the information online.
Yeah.
And I know where to pull it from. I can do that.
Yeah. And I thought Rodney and John's presentations they did, the video clips. Well, Rodney did this. I thought those were great. I mean, especially for lay people, of which I am. Those would be excellent in the area of adult education.
Yeah. We could have homeowner education. We could add that as a category. I'd never even thought of that.
Yeah, I think that'd be a great use of the website. we get people there, give them something, give them a reason to stick around for a few minutes.
I've been very envious of the stormwater management website, and but I think they have a full-time person and staff that handles their education.
Yeah.
Which is why they just knock us out of the water area.
Yeah, water obviously has a good PR person. Every time I get a water bill, it's like, wow, somebody who's really on this. They are organizing events. They are putting out flyers. There's new stuff all the time. Yeah, they have got it. They're doing it right.
One of the things I noticed is they had an essay contest, the different school levels, elementary, middle, and high school. And the best participant would be awarded, I can't remember what they were going to be awarded, but I thought that was kind of neat.
That's a great idea. That's a really great idea. We could do an essay contest or some kind of contest related to trees and the value of trees.
Yeah.
So
we could give them a tree. Other than that, I don't know. We can give them.
So
Here, a tree.
Can you guys hear me? Can you guys hear me? Okay, I'm sorry. I keep trying to butt in, and I wasn't sure if you guys could hear me. So, a couple of things is that historically, the Tree Council has done a tree art contest, tree photo, like years ago, poetry contest, and photography contest, and it was pretty successful. Which I think that would be definitely something to do this year because it's contact lists. But also in thinking about stormwater and water conservation, who are very dear colleagues of mine, that's kind of one of the big challenges for the Tree Council is that those folks have ACC staff that are specific to education and outreach. And so for the Tree Council, it becomes a little bit more challenging because there's not Rodney does not do dedicated outreach and education. And in fact, I'm not quite sure that I don't know if he's doing any. Do you, Mark? I don't think he's doing any education. And so what that means is that, they're all, they have two people in water conservation that are awesome, but they're fully dedicated to community events and community research. So that's sort of where we have to be strategic as a Tree Council and decide like what's our biggest bang for the buck, right? Like what is it that we can do that, we don't have to pay staff, but that would really help educate the community. Do you want to throw that out?
What, Stacy, when y'all had those contests in the past, what kind of prizes would you give or what kind of awards would you give?
So Leah, I'm telling you, I'm getting so old. Like I am like almost 20 years of this, and I can tell you, like we have done so many. The Tree Council has done so many different things. We used to have this really big luncheon. Mark, were you around for that? Oh God. Okay. So there was like this traditional luncheon for Arbor Day luncheon. Big deal. It was at the Classic Center. It cost the Tree Council a lot of money. In fact, we would spend the whole year like trying to raise funds to help support that luncheon. The mayor would come. They would do a Tree City USA proclamation. Then we would select a school that was the recipient of the tree that owns itself. We would plan a planting of that tree with the school children for whichever school it was. And then all the schools in the county were able to participate in the photo art contest kind of thing. And so I think the winner of the student winners got to come to the luncheon. It was like a big day. They got to come to the luncheon and meet the mayor, and they got a plaque and some goodies. So it was really about making them feel super special. They got to leave school and come with their parents. So that was sort of the way we highlighted those students. But that was, and then several years ago, it's all runs together for me. But the council at one point was like, this is crazy. We're spending way too much money on this lunch, and we need to put our money towards tree plantings or education. Or at the time, we didn't have any brochures, and I think we we decided to use monies for publishing some, outreach material instead of doing that luncheon. And then from there, we just keep moving, like in these circles of like things. So I'm like the institutional knowledge that knows some of this stuff, but it's kind of interesting because it does kind of circle back around, so. Because we stopped doing the art and poetry contest a few years ago, and now here we are in this hall talking about doing it again.
Yeah. Lee, I liked your idea of maybe them perhaps winning a tree that could be planted at their school and they could be recognized.
That's a nice thought. That's a really nice thought.
Doing the, doing an in-person event, I'm not so sure about how. I mean, I guess we just have to play that by ear.
Yeah.
Especially if the schools go back to virtual only.
Yeah.
Right now.
What does it look like as far as schools go for starting in January? Do you think they'll be back in person?
I don't know.
Okay, so I have children. So as it stands right now, some kids are virtual and some are in person. With everybody's sort of holding their breath to see what happens over December, and whether or not they're going to continue with in-person. I believe they will, but really kind of be watching cases go up. They may end up going completely virtual again.
Yeah. Well, it seems like an essay contest or poetry, photography, or art, or all those things that Stacy mentioned. That seems like a really good virtual school activity.
Yeah.
But as far as something to reward them, the winners with, maybe we could, in the spring, plant a tree at their school in a very small, distant ceremony. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Are we getting with the promotional material? Were we getting T-shirts or anything or book bags or?
I don't know. I don't know what promotional material we're getting at all.
I think we were going to have. There was going to be an initial run. We were going to get, I think, stickers for our cars.
Oh, okay.
And I think maybe there were some other things that, I don't know, we might come up with just kind of a grab bag of ideas.
Was that something that the promotions committee was going to do, like the stickers and all that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I
think Mary was the person that was in charge of that.
Yeah. Yeah, she's in charge of promotions.
Yeah. So maybe we can ask her about that. Maybe an item could be donated, or if we do this, if we did it at all the schools or just countywide. I mean, I guess we'd have to decide on the scope.
Yeah.
So ladies, I want to just also share something I know from the past as well, is that if you want to do like a poetry or any type of a contest, you really have to it would have to go out like ASAP, because the administration and the teachers they're very planned with their activities. Now this year's kind of wonky, so it might be the opportunity to squeeze it in without it being challenging. But just in terms of as moving forward, it is something that has to be sent to the teachers early on, especially if we want to, if we really want them to promote it to their students, right? For many of the teachers, if they know about it, they will then plan to do lessons in their classroom that are related to trees and or tap resources. But they can't do that if we only give them the information 2 months in advance. I remember them coming back to us and telling us that at one point, that we need to be way ahead of the game so they can implement, or that they can put it into their planning.
Yeah.
Well, what if we spend the next month, assuming that we're having meetings in December? We just brought that up in the last committee meeting. I don't think we ever resolved it. If the tree council as a whole is meeting in December because it falls the week of Christmas. We talked about it and then I don't think we resolved it, but assuming that we are meeting in December, what do y'all think about the idea of taking this next month to just think about ideas for a contest, like a subject, or what we could do for that? And then we can coalesce it all together in December, send it out to the schools, and then they've got all of December on to maybe work with it. And Arbor Day being in February, well, that gives them right at the 2 months, which Stacy says that's not going to work.
I think this year's unusual though, so I don't think that
Oh.
it's unreasonable. I think that we could, it's just that within the next few weeks, well, so you have to imagine, like, right now, kids only have 5 more days of school until they get a week off for Thanksgiving. Then they come back to school for 9 days, and then they're off for 2 weeks. And then they'll come back in January. So there's not really that much school left right now. So just it's something to think about. But also, in thinking about a theme, it might be, I'm sure we can come up with lots of them, but in terms of clean air to breathe, because of what's going on, surely there's a connection there that might be very important to children understanding what trees do to us in the world of COVID. So just to sort of start those wheels spinning, right? Come up with
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Stacy, through Green Schools, do you have access to get in touch with teachers? And I mean, is there a way to just reach out to them and say, hey, what time in December do you need to know something by so a decision could be made and maybe gotten to them before they're into their own holiday time?
Yeah, I mean, when are you leaving, Mark? When are you leaving?
Next week?
Next week, okay.
Yeah.
The answer is yes, for the folks that are on the Green Schools Committee, which Stacy Smith, one of my staff is on the committee, and so she has a distribution list for all the Green School coordinators, so that every school has a Green School coordinator. So she can send them stuff whenever. It's just a matter of someone writing it up and saying, this is what we'd like to do. You know, it doesn't even have to be at this late in the game. Maybe it's just, it's like a paragraph of like, I don't know. I don't think we don't overthink it, right? To just get something out to them and see if they then in turn can get it out to all of their teachers. Sometimes it's just a matter of putting in a paragraph about Arbor Day. That's about like National Arbor Day, which all that verbiage is out there. And then just sharing with them that we locally that we want to celebrate, and the way we want to celebrate is to sort of have some action items for our kids to do. So,
Yeah.
And so the answer, that was a long answer. I guess the answer is yes, Green School coordinators, and then they in turn, you have to ask them to send it out to all the teachers.
I'm happy to send her a quick email. Just try and get that in there.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we should work you to the bone before you leave.
Got to get something done.
I mean, that's what your penance for leaving us.
She's coming back here on Wednesday to pick all that stuff up, so I'll send her an email, and if I don't hear, I'll just follow up with her on Wednesday. So.
And I know, I mean, not really to add to your plate, Mark, because I'm sure you probably have a lot going on. I know I've worked with you long enough to know that you do a great job with verbiage and you can write things up very, so you may already have something. Because didn't you send something out last year through the Green Schools program to teachers, like through Stacy, like? Did you do that?
No, I tried to offer to come out and do some stuff, but I never ended up doing it. Most of the stuff I've done with Green Schools was for Green Life Expo and the awards and stuff. But I can send her an email if I need a little bit more info from you all just to fill it out. I'll send you all an email real quick. It probably won't take long, I wouldn't think, right? great. Any other thoughts? So look forward to some more communications in the next month.
You mean like when you're not here?
Yeah.
Like when you're not here, you mean?
Yeah. Well, I appreciate all the work you guys are doing, and hopefully you guys can all keep this rolling and get stuff on the website. And thanks a lot.
Oh, Mark, who else is on the education committee? I'm just trying to I don't know who to send emails out to because I'm not sure who all's on the committee. Is it just
the 4 of us? Yeah.
Just 4 of us? Okay. Well, that's easy. Now it's just the 3 of us.
Yeah. Have some more volunteers.
Oh, and Edith, you asked before what the education committee had done in the past, and I'm only a year ahead of you on the tree council, and the education committee was inactive for a while, was my understanding, and then it was just reactivated kind of when you started. So as far as I know, we don't have history, but Stacy has the institutional knowledge of what they've all done for 20 years. So.
Wow.
It was recent.
When it first started.
Yeah. The education committee, I've always sort of been involved in some way because there was just a lot of crossover. And in fact, there did used to be a tree person in the county government. So Keep Athens-Clarke County Beautiful used to try and incorporate tree lessons, back in the day. But the education committee, just to give you guys an idea of what they used to do when they were fairly active, is they would select, usually I think of it like around 3 different outreach events where they would table. And they would do tabling, they would distribute trees, pamphlets, stickers, all that kind of stuff. And that was sort of back when Maureen O'Brien, who was a huge tree advocate in our community, and Jerry Bowden, who is retired now, but Jerry was super active on the tree council for a very long time. They would decide which events they would want to go to, and they would commit to tabling at those events to provide the community with information about trees. I think we used to do the tree sale. We haven't done it in the past few years. We used to do a big native tree sale. And what they would do at that sale is they would bring a table and they would do fun activities for kids to do. Like they would do I remember them doing like pine cones, peanut butter, like bird feeders, and like drawing things, like rubbings, leaf rubbings, so they would really kind of get the younger kids engaged in like the opportunity to talk about trees. And so that was something we did, like usually at like 3 outreach events. And then Maureen and I used to sometimes go into the schools and do the tree lessons that Mark is talking about. We passed off to Mark. And so when we were able to get in, or when teachers requested our presence, we would go and we would do these tree lessons. There's 2 that we have to Keep Athens-Clarke County Beautiful that we would do. So, and then the education committee realized that there really wasn't good materials for distribution. So then they sort of had a year or 2 of trying to like work with the campus committee to come up with a brochure. So like all things, like they were still doing some outreach events, but they were really trying to come up with the materials that they wanted to see at outreach events. And then once we got those materials, then it started, and then I think we're kind of at a point where we're re-looking at the materials, right? Looking at this stuff. And that was also before there was a really good website. So that was a couple of years of working on the website. So that's just to give you a little history of how the education committee has gone in circles. Really. So that's where we're at.
What was the decision to disband based on?
I'm sorry, say that again.
What was the decision to
disband
the education committee?
I don't know that there was. It wasn't that it wasn't ever disbanded. It was just inactive. And I think what happened was we had a couple of years where the tree council was really struggling with members. and trying to get a real commitment from members, not just members in name, but members in action. And so, you know, Nina could probably share that too, because she was around during that time too, where it was like, you know, we really had to stop and focus our energy on a few things, just a few things, because there wasn't enough people that were active to be doing things on their committees. So the way that Rodney has it set up now, where he's, you know, he's really sort of forced our hand, not necessarily bad, but like to have these committee meetings, right? He's really done a good job with like, you guys need to meet once a month. That did not happen before. And so for those 2 years where there was low membership on the committee, they really had to just step away from outreach education and focus on the things that they felt were priorities.
That's very helpful.
Good.
Yeah, thank you, Stacy.
It just totally dates me though. I really I sometimes don't even want to share this information anymore. Because I'm this person on every committee I sit on. I'm like, okay, so back in 1983.
Okay, so I think going forward, are we in December going to present the ideas that we've come up with about contests and awards and maybe some activities? And then I don't know if you want to also, since we all have so much free time, if we want to also be working on information for the webpage, for the Education Committee's webpage on the Tree Council's website.
Yeah.
As far as educational stuff, homeowner info, I can do professional education stuff.
I think that's a good summary. Yeah.
Okay.
And maybe just to add, maybe those would be our short-term goals, but do we want to look at long-term goals as well, assuming that the pandemic may be over or waning or?
Can you guys hear me? I know that with Mark's departure, and it's been kind of challenging, the hiring process through the county government. I know it's kind of been a little bit challenging during the pandemic. So I know that what I can say is that I can talk to my staff that goes and do presentations to see if just in the interim until there's someone to replace Mark, they can still do tree lessons. You know, they can at least offer them. You know, the few that we have, I can ask Stacy to just, you know, add that to the list of activities that she offers to the teachers. So at least, you know, it's out there.
Yeah.
Just short term, you know.
Okay.
Well, great. Appreciate it all. I sent Stacy an email, and I'll let you know about any of the follow-up. And best of luck on the website and all that stuff. But yeah, I'll be in touch one or two more times. But thank you all.
All right. Thank you for everything, Mark.
I'm at
Best wishes to
Mark.
life.
Thanks.
Best of
you back.
I'll try and get back soon.
Okay.
Take care.
Bye. We expect you to come back.